Welcome to everyone around the globe, our wonderful, I would say, environmental eco-warriors and people who love topics relating to the environment. Welcome to COP28 updates and live online interviews. We are here today to share some really amazing information about the COP28. And of course, we have Charles Appleby, my co-host, from Saving Our Planet, co-founder. I will be joining you very shortly, Honey Kalaria from Rotary in London. Charles, all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Hello, and thank you for joining us, and a very big welcome both to our audience and our speakers today. This is the 12th and last of our 12 online broadcasts live from COP28. I hope you've seen some of the others. If you haven't, then please take a look at the Honey Kalaria Facebook page, where all 12 of the previous 11, plus this one will be there, broadcast will be there on her Facebook channel. Okay, so as Honey said, these broadcasts are a partnership between ourselves. It's been absolutely amazing working with Honey and Rotary. Yesterday was a very, very special day. If you'd like to take a look at that, there were some senior members from Rotary there giving their perspective on what's happened, what needs to be done. And of course, it's very special working with Rotary because they're a worldwide organization with representation, 1.4 million people across the globe from all different countries. Okay, so my name is Charles Appleby. I'm a volunteer with Saving Our Planet. So with Saving Our Planet, we've got a particular focus on nuclear energy, on making a difference with the whole energy portfolio, energy solutions and transition, and also my own particular interest, which is in what's possible with planting trees. So that's my interest here. If you haven't heard the statistics, then basically experts are saying that planting trees, and by trees we include mangroves, blue carbon, which is seagrasses, peat, all these sorts of things. These have the potential to remove about 1/3 of emissions worldwide. So this isn't the only solution. I mean, most important, which is being discussed here at COP28 now, most important is to cut the use of fossil fuels, by which we mean coal, gas, and oil. Now, these have been huge, huge drivers of the success, particularly of the West in the UK, the US and Europe and many, many other countries. And part of the tension here is that the more developing countries, less well-off countries in Africa, for example, are saying, well, look, hey, we don't want to stop fossil fuels because we want to have the opportunity of catching up with you guys. And that opportunity to catch up is really there with other sources of fuels, with low carbon fuels. So what are called the renewables, with wind, with solar, and also another very, very important low carbon fuel, which is nuclear power. So what's happened at COP28? If you've been following the top line news in the media, then what you will have seen is there's been a big discussion about fossil fuels, whether there is a possibility of COP28 led by Dubai, whether it's possible to actually phase down or even phase out fossil fuels. So the latest news from Reuters just a few minutes ago is that there is going to be yet another draft of the final conference agreement coming out, and it looks as if phasing down, phasing out to do with fossil fuels is not there. Okay, so there's been a lot of discussion about this. You can't have missed it. But what we've also seen here with the discussions we've had, we've seen how a lot is going on, how other things are making a difference. So overall, not great news. The IEA a few days ago said that with all the announcements made at COP28, that would basically remove about 1/3 of the gap that there is by 2030. So we're left with 2/3 of the gap. And what that gap means is it means that we're not going to hit 1.5 in 2050. We're not going to hit 2 degrees. More likely, it's going to be well over 2 degrees. let's see what the experts have to say about exactly what it is, whether it's 2.5 degrees or a bit more or a bit less. Okay, so that's for going forward. So what has been achieved here? I think probably the thing that struck me, the biggest achievement here has been that the nuclear, which has been seen as a problem. There's been a lot of concern about nuclear over the last few years. Nuclear has really come to the fore with a big agreement by the world to increase nuclear power by 3x, 3 times more nuclear power by 2050. We've discussed this on the transmissions here with a number of experts. We had Sophie Osborne from Bristol University talking about this very, very articulately earlier in the week. We had Matt Neringer from Young People in Nuclear in the US giving us a lot of data about this. Again, I think it was on Wednesday last week. And just a couple of days ago, we had Christy Fletcher talking again about the possibilities for nuclear. So I think the feeling here for me is that if the world is saying we can achieve 3 times more nuclear by 2050, which is still a long time away, I feel myself we really need to put them under pressure to make it not just 3 times, but 10 times more. Okay, so challenge for nuclear industry to do that. It's really up to their experts to make it happen. The other good news that's come out is basically around 3 times more renewables. So that's solar and wind, 3 times more. The world has agreed to 3 times more solar and wind energy by 2030. Now, this is now 6 years away. So this is a harder target because there's much less time to do this. But if they can, again, the challenge is they can do 3 times more renewables by 2030. How much more can they do by 2050? And again, I think we should be looking at 10 times or 20 times even more renewable energy by 2050. And the world needs it, because if we're going to phase down fossil fuels, then we've got to have something else in place. The amount of electricity we're using, which will be increasingly not just for homes, but will also be for cars and replacing so many other forms of heating, driving our heat pumps, for example, we're going to need so much more electricity. So that's some good news. So just have a think yourself around what you feel has been in the news about COP28, what's happening, and let's start to face up to a situation where it's the phase down, the phase out of fossil fuels is potentially not going to be possible. So it just seems that the world leaders that we have are not able to drive this, and the petrol states and or oil and gas states are not able to join in. Let me also put on the table, today is a special day, the 12th of December. It's actually the anniversary of the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement was a massive success in 2015, so 8 years ago now. Paris Agreement made the agreement for the world to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees, so 1.5 max. I think my question to the oil and gas states is this: everyone signed up to 1.5 degrees, including the oil and gas states. If you're going to block this agreement to phasing down oil and gas, if you're going to block this at this stage, then what actually are you going to do as your contribution to cutting oil and gas? But then let's turn it around to everyone else. It's us who are using the oil and gas. Have you turned down your central heating, your gas central heating? Have you turned down have you changed your light bulbs to low energy light bulbs? Or are you still carrying on with the old light bulbs and everyone in the house in the middle of winter running around in shorts and t-shirts with the temperature at 25 degrees? We all have to do a bit. And of course, a big benefit of cutting use of electricity is that it actually saves money as well. I've turned down my heating, it's been turned down for a long time. You just get used to it. It's so important. So to question of everybody, not everyone can turn down the heating. It's not possible for everyone to do all these things. But if you can't do that, what can you do? What can we all do that actually makes a difference? Now, turning around to, we look to our leaders, and sadly, the UK has disappointed. I'm from the UK. It has disappointed. The big news just in the last few days, which the Guardian has been promoting, is that the UK new climate minister, I think Claire Coutinho, actually spent a very, very short amount of time in Dubai and very quickly disappeared, hence missed the opportunity for talking with everybody. And we've had so many speakers on this broadcast this week. Shailen in particular talking about the need for everyone, Shailen Mittal that is, talking about the need for everyone to talk. Everyone needs to talk about climate change. What can be done about it? So the UK minister wasn't there, missed these opportunities for all of this discussion. So we've seen progress with electric vehicles, but let's focus on heat pumps for the home, because domestic heating, gas and electricity, consume a huge amount of power. So the preferred solution from the government seems to be heat pumps. But what's happening? Are heat pumps being put into new houses? No, they're not. So for the last 3 or 4 years, how come they're not being put in seriously into new properties? And the business of retrofitting heat pumps into existing houses. These things are difficult to do. I'm not saying they're not difficult, but the combination of the government, the industry, consumer representatives, everybody surely can do a better job. I mean, other countries are happy with their heat pumps. They're buying the heat pumps in volume, for example, in France. So why can't we do that? Well, one of the reasons is that people aren't selling it, promoting it, showing that it works, and encouraging people to do it in a positive way. So that's, for me, is a huge, huge missed opportunity. Second huge opportunity is my own area of planting trees. Now, it's very, very widely accepted that trees, including planting mangroves, seagrass, all these things that grow, a lot of these things that grow, are a really excellent, proven, and low-cost way of removing CO2 from the air. So since everybody's talking about it and agrees it, then why are we not just planting more and more trees? So the cost of planting trees in the tropics is very low. It's much, much lower than planting a tree in Scotland. I mean, yes, let's have trees in Scotland, but we can get them much more cost effectively in the tropics. So why aren't there initiatives to plant more trees, plant the billions of trees we need? And of course, the other point about planting trees in the tropics is that it provides paid work for people, families who are actually in extreme poverty. Now, I didn't know this till a couple of years ago, but what does extreme poverty mean? You can have people in poverty. In the UK, we have people in relative poverty. But what does extreme poverty mean? Well, extreme poverty means that people are living, according to the World Bank definition, people are living on less than $2.15 a day. Now, going to a high street in the UK, the US, Western Europe, then basically for your cup of coffee, for a reasonable sized cup of coffee, you are paying about double $2.15. So $2.15 means that people are living on what we're paying for half a cup of coffee. Does that sound fair? Now, honey, would you like to come into this discussion? If you do, it'd be lovely to see you and hear from you. But otherwise,
I will be there very shortly to share all my little opinions and my thoughts on this. So Charles, just give me 2 minutes and I'll be there.
Sure. Okay. So just on the subject of trees, let's talk about the airline industry. So the airline industry, we all like flying. So is it realistic to stop flying? Probably not, but it is possible to fly less, and to, when you do fly, to stay for longer, so you fly less times. But the airline industry really likes what's called SAF, which is sustainable air fuel. So what this is about, it's about planting crops. And so obviously the crops that are planted do compete with land which you could otherwise use for food. But for me, more important is that the cost of SAF is probably 3 times more than the cost of ordinary aviation fuel, kerosene. So are you willing to pay a lot more for your holiday journeys, your travel? Well, businesses might, but for going on holiday, I think people are not going to want to. So the airline industry, though, is saying that they could fuel potentially 60% of flights with SAF, no emissions fuel by 2050. But my question is, well, what about between now and 2050? What about these 24 years when airlines are going to be emitting a lot of emissions? And what about 2050, when the 60%, there's still 40% of airline travel, which is not being covered? So it seems to me a no-brainer that what we should be doing, what we should all be doing, is in the meantime be planting trees to remove those CO2 emissions. It's low cost. It's a very small addition to what our cost of travel is. It's a low cost, but it's very, very effective. And those trees go on removing CO2 for all the years that they're growing. Honey, welcome. How are you?
Oops, Daisy. I'm very well, thank you so much. I was really listening very intently with your wonderful discussions. And I think that what you mentioned about the COP28, it's actually been a really positive thing, really, hasn't it? Because even if we look at all the negative side that we haven't achieved, you know, our fuel targets and things like that, and carbon emission targets, etc. But the point is, people have come together for the dialogue part. People have gone back being more educated. And people perhaps, you know, when they came in just to explore, maybe going back with some possibilities of what kind of collaborative work can be taking place, or also just how can we make a difference ourselves. So maybe those are some of the positive points with the COP28, I believe. But of course, you know, Charles, people like you and me, there are many more like us, many like-minded people around the world who I know care about the earth, care about our planet, and really are thinking not just for ourselves, but our future generations, because we need to leave the world in a better place for our future generations. And I know that sometimes people can become a little, how would I say it, slightly selfish, really, that I won't be around anyway, so who cares, you know? So there could be some opinions such as those as well. And there could be some opinions where I really want to do something, but I don't know what to do. And they feel like there is no hope because there's so much that's gone wrong that will we ever be able to put it right? So for me, I think it's all about, you know, helping to develop a little bit of hope, show the positive side of things, show people how their contribution will make a huge difference. And I still say that coming up to multi-billion population that we have in our, on our planet, if we all thought about just planting one tree every single year, all of a sudden, you know.
We need a lot more than one tree.
No, but I'm just thinking
So
about every single year, if every single person started planting one tree around the world, can you imagine in 10 years' time, right? And how many billions of trees?
I mean, it would help. Yeah, it would help.
But listen,
what I would say is if people would like to plant a tree in their garden, then please do. That's great. But it is going to cost you a lot more than if you make a donation through Rotary, which comes to ourselves to plant trees. So what we can offer you, we can offer in the tropics at the moment, we can offer planting 6 trees for £1. So that for me is the way, and it needs trees really, really in bulk. So if you're traveling by air to offset your air travel, you need to plant 32 trees per hour of travel. Not of your garden trees, but my trees, which are 6 trees for £1. So it's not expensive, okay?
6 trees, and we also have to remind everybody.
A lot more trees, okay?
I can see this, Charles, but I can also just want to remind everybody that even if we begin now, these trees are little saplings. So it will take at least 10, 15 years for these little trees to grow into like reasonable sized trees, I would have thought.
No, no,
For
no,
us
no. A tree in the tropics will start absorbing CO2 significantly within 4 to 5 years. And they'll be
to,
doing really well within 7 years. So the argument with trees is always, well, we've got to why plant trees because it's going to take a while to grow. The argument for trees is very simple. Trees in the tropics, within 7 years or so, will be doing well. They'll be removing a lot of CO2. And those trees will continue removing CO2 for all of their life. Now, for some trees, tropical trees, it's going to be 25, 30 years. For others, it's going to be longer. But once you've got the trees going, it makes a real difference. And you can sit back and enjoy all your CO2 being removed. Like me, I mean, I planted my first trees in 2018. So we're 5 years on now. Those trees are doing well, really well.
Absolutely. Well, let me share a little bit whilst we are discussing and whilst we wait for some of our guests to join us. Maybe, just to give a little bit of an insight into the kind of work that's being done here with the trees. I'm sure you can see my screen right now. And I just wanted to actually show a little bit about the trees, how important our planet is the reforestation, plantation and planting trees project. And this is something that Rotary has been working on for about 1.5 years now. And we work with the Eden Project. What they do, of course, is Saving Our Planet, the International Association of Human Values, Climate Now. So we all come together as partners to work on this project. And one of them is the Eden Reforestation Project, where the aim is not to just plant trees, but to also restore, like the forests and create jobs, also protecting some of the ecosystems, which are very important for wildlife and biodiversity to thrive. This is definitely something that we can help with, which would help in climate change. And also by the end of 2024, Eden Project wants to plant a minimum we're saying, of 4 billion trees. So this, within a year, if we can all come together collectively, if you could perhaps work with your local Rotary clubs, or even you can contact the Rotary Club of our world's tropical forests have been completely lost due to deforestation. And this is due to logging, mining, agriculture, finding even a space to feed the animals that we're going to be eating for the meat product industry. We also have been involved, actually, on the positive note, to plant trees, and these have been mainly in various, I would say, areas such as Philippines, Brazil, Central America, Mozambique, Haiti, Madagascar, Indonesia, Kenya, Nepal. These are all these beautiful places, especially the Central America side, I would say, with Brazil. There's the Amazon forest, which is one of the most beautiful forests in the world, which, we are destroying on a daily basis. And of course, when you think about all the wonderful, I would say, benefits, well, think about it. This is the way we can provide a space for our animals, which are going extinct, unfortunately, many of them now, because of the human greed, I would say sometimes. Actually, it's not sometimes, it's all the time, because normally what happens is all the trees and all the water would go back down from the things. Anyway, this is just one thing I thought would be really good for you to just know, to let you know that with climate action and Rotary and Saving Our Planet, we have been working on supporting to plant many trees. And what we do is it's a campaign called the 1 Million Trees Planting Campaign. So every year we focus on planting at least 1 million trees through our clubs. But really, there is many more trees that need to be planted. So I would say that all your support, everything that you can do for us, and support, we can do together collectively for our globe, for our world, and for our planet. What do you think about that, Charles? Ooh, you're on mute.
I mean, as we said, Honey, the point about planting trees is it's very cost effective, and it creates paid work for people in extreme poverty. It's a no-brainer to plant trees. So there's other solutions, like we've talked a little bit about sustainable airline fuel for the air industry. And you'll also heard about direct carbon capture, which is basically big industrial machines which are capturing carbon. But to put it in context, the cost of mechanically removing CO2 from the air, which is being done at the moment, and which is a tiny, tiny fraction of what's required. Someone on our webinars gave the statistic that all the direct air capture machines in the world currently are removing the CO2 that we create from under 10 minutes. 10 minutes in a whole year, right? Whereas trees are removing what, 30% of CO2 emissions and the potential to remove much, much more. So instead of price of $100, $200 a ton to remove CO2, trees are able to remove a ton of CO2 from a much, much lower price, just a few dollars a ton. And that rolls on every year that the tree is growing. So it's a great solution, honey.
Yes, and also when you think about it, just basic science, really. When you talk to maybe young people who may be tuning in or will be watching this later on for our reruns, for the interviews, and they can also appreciate and understand that we take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide, whereas the plants will then absorb the carbon dioxide and give us the oxygen back again. So if you can imagine, all the trees are like just being cut out, there's not enough carbon dioxide that's being absorbed, and not enough oxygen also being given out, I would say, to clean up the air and to give us fresh air, because we need oxygen in our bodies, right, to lead healthier lives. And that's why I believe that this year in COP28, there's been a lot of talk on food, health, the environment, but relating to food and health as well. Hasn't that been the case, Charles?
Let's talk about a couple of other things that trees do. You can do this very simple test in your garden. Basically, sit under a tree, or if you haven't got a tree, sit under an umbrella on a hot day, on a really hot sunny day. Just sit under a tree, and that tree gives you shade. Think about it, the leaves of that tree, we take it for granted, but if we're out there every day without a hat on, very quickly, I do anyway, I get crazily sunburned, and it's very, very unpleasant. The leaves of those trees, provided the tree has a minimum amount of water and doesn't die off, right? Then basically it's taking out all of that sunshine every day of the summer. That's to enable us to sit under it in the shade. Think about it. Now, what scientists have also found is that exposed soil, not soil with grass on or plants, exposed soil, the top tiny little bit of layer of the soil is actually destroyed. The humus, everything in the soil is destroyed by the sunlight. So it's really, really important to keep the ground covered. Now, all these wonderful photographs that we have in England from the past, we have people ploughing land with horses and ploughing it all up and whatever. This now is seen as out of date, because every time you plough the land, you are turning over and releasing the CO2 from the air. So it's not just deforestation that's releasing CO2, it's actually ploughing the land. So what we should be doing, we should be planting crops with seed drill machines, which put the seed direct in, trying to keep the ground covered. So keep the ground covered rather than leaving exposed to be damaged. Even if you mulch the surface, it makes a difference. Now, there's another huge thing as well. Sadly, my business partner, Rob Delart, has not been able to join us for any of these broadcasts this week. But his big thing is about the cooling power of trees. So first of all, you've got the way in which trees in the Amazon change the flow of air. They change the flow of air from coming in over the Atlantic. They bring in moist, wet air from the Atlantic in, and they will create 7 times more rainfall in the Amazon. And that flow has been disrupted in the Amazon by the deforestation. That flow actually has been acknowledged by scientists as contributing to the drought in California. The impact is just so big. So this is why we need trees, not just of trees anywhere. Some places are more important than others. And the Amazon rainforest, to restore and reforest the Amazon rainforest, is critically important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And at the moment, of course, we have a wonderful guest as well who's just joining us at the moment, and I will see if I can get them on board. I believe we have, oh, hello, we have Aisling.
So yeah, my full name is it's pronounced Aisling. Aisling Connaughton,
What
Irish spelling.
your very simple name. Yes, Aisling, hello. And where are you? I believe you're from the COP28 connecting to us live.
Yes, exactly. So I'm on the ground here in Dubai, just outside the green zone. So I've managed to find some space. So thanks for having us, Charles. Again, always good to see you.
Fantastic, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with your name.
Aisling.
Fantastic to have you again, and congratulations. I think, honey, Aisling has got the best sound of any of our guests. So do tell us about your sound setup, because we've had some, we did have one very poor sound setup. But tell us about how COP28 has been for you, Aisling. We're facing a situation where the news, the overall news in terms of phasing down or phasing out fossil fuels as of this moment is not looking good. So it'd be good to hear from you about what has been positive. What have you found that's going on at COP28 that is good news for us and for you with your business, Aisling?
So this is my third COP. So I have a sustainability consultancy, and this is my third one. So I was in Egypt last year and in Glasgow, and this COP feels very, very different on the ground. So firstly, I think it's really, before coming out, they said it's going to be an inclusive COP, and it absolutely is. So it feels very, very inclusive for people on the ground here. So when I was in Glasgow, my mission was to get into the green zone, and it was one of the most challenging things to do. It was so hard to even find the green zone. It was kind of me and like these parents who were taking their children to try and find the green zone, and we just couldn't even get there. We were like walking for hours, and then it was total. I thought it was very a lot of PR spin basically on the green zone. It was not inclusive whatsoever, and you had very much like barricades where you had like the politicians jetting in and out, and then climate activists, very dramatically doing their activist thing, and it was a real kind of divide. And then in Egypt last year, it didn't feel inclusive for local people as well. I felt like they didn't even realize it was happening. However, this COP has been incredibly inclusive. So people from Dubai, from all over the UAE are actually attending the Green Zone. It's been very, very well organized. And it feels very, very inclusive, I would say. So I would definitely say, from that perspective, okay, it's definitely a kind of, it's followed through on what they've said. It's been a real education piece, I think, for people here. So that's really good.
What have you seen, Aisling, that's made a real difference? What have you seen that, things that potentially would scale up and make a real difference to the world at this difficult time with climate change?
I think something that's really come out of this COP is we're really starting to understand collectively that the climate crisis is the symptom of this broken economic system. So the system that's exploiting the planet and exploiting people. And I think collectively, we're really starting to understand that there isn't a climate crisis, there's a broken economic system. And you're seeing the private sector, more so than ever, really step up here. So I've seen so many businesses, really trying to play a role in this. It was nearly like baddie politicians versus lefty activists, or vice versa. It's like a pyramid of polarization where they're both fighting each other. You really see now the private sector coming along and going, how am I going to make money by solving some of these issues? Because when that happens, the whole thing changes. So that's been quite exciting.
So it's coming that's a brilliant insight, Aisling. But tell us, is there any one particular idea that comes out to the fore of things that should be done differently?
I'm just because I think Honey had a question as well.
Yes, Aisling, thank you so much. We just had the mayor of Redbridge who's just joined us, and I think she's just popped out from her engagement very kindly. And are you okay for us to come back to you?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Thank you so much. We will just have a quick little wonderful Mayor of Redbridge, Jyotsna Islam, is doing. First of all, welcome, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on board.
You've joined us at the COP28 live updates and interviews program. This is our last day, a final program, and we're so pleased to have you here. I know that
Thank
you
you.
are one of the leaders in the community who has been really involved in initiatives relating to the environment. And you're very keen on supporting this particular area and also working on a few initiatives within your borough. Can you tell us, first of all, a little bit about yourself and your environment connection?
Well, as a first citizen of London Borough of Redbridge, we are working in conjunction with officers, volunteers, community leaders, trying to make sure that Redbridge is a pioneer in every direction we can, especially with climate changes. Some of the things that we have taken initiative is planting trees, waste collection, making sure that recycles, we've got recycling being also in terms of parks, planting trees, we have an initiative to plant 100 trees a year, garden blooms, trying to encourage local residents to make sure they have take pride in their local areas in terms of planting trees, flowers, and also rewarding neighbors, families, or individuals who are taking the initiative to make sure their areas are blooming in terms of flowers and keeping it tidy. So Redbridge is working in that as a council, but also in conjunction with the Lockley Club. What we're trying to do is encourage our local schools at an early stage, and you are part of that Rotary Club as well, making sure that we are trying to encourage children from primary school to high school about climate changes, how it's affecting us, and what we can do. So it's not just only us, but our future generation have a better life as well. Also, as a mayor, as you know, as a Mayor's New Year's Parade, we're trying to work our theme. We'll take Redbridge came first this year, but also next year on 1st of January, we're looking at trying to claim the first prize again. And we're working very hard in terms of our New Year's Parade theme to make sure that there's a golden thread of what we're doing in terms of sustainability and planet, looking after the planet, and also making sure that throughout the process, in terms of as a mayor, but also as a council, also as a local resident, that we are working throughout different age barriers to make sure that climate change is on the top of our list as a priority.
That's amazing. And Madam Mayor, because at the end of the day, you mentioned two very important points. One is the educational initiative that Rotary in London, in conjunction with the London Borough of Redbridge, are coming together, and you are heading that initiative with myself actually, yes. to bring the books into schools called Saving Our Planet. Now, for something like that, how important do you think it is? I'm just putting it on the screen so that people are aware of the kind of projects that we're currently working on. This is the Save Our Planet book. We want to get this into every single school in the Redbridge Borough. And of course, Madam Mayor, our Mayor Jyotsna Islam is one of our pioneering mayors who's coming on board to support us and hopefully take this across the whole of the nation afterwards. So what are your thoughts on this, and why did you feel this was a good initiative to work with Rotary for?
Well, Rotary Club is not just a UK based, it's an international organization. They have the skills and caliber to support local communities across, not just in London boroughs, but across the nation, globally. So this is why we felt a privilege to be part of a joint venture. And who else than Redbridge to be the pioneer in terms of spreading the goodwill and how to work with schools, early education, making sure that children have a better start. As adults, we're doing our level best, but the future generation needs to know, and at an early stage, they can make a significant difference and contribution to our community, who are going to be our future. So where else to start than from early age?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a fantastic initiative, and we're very proud of you. And I hope many more mayors, we have around 32 boroughs in the whole of London, and I hope that all the mayors who are heads and leaders in the community take up this initiative and follow your wonderful steps here, and also, help to start educating our young children who are the pioneers and our future leaders. They're the ones who will be taking the action. They'll be the ones who will be developing policies. And if they don't make the right decisions whilst they're growing up, we'll end up having the same kind of planet, worse along the way. So,
exactly.
Madam,
can I just show you the booklet? This is what we're looking at. I don't know whether you can see.
We can kind of see it, but it's a bit blurry, but we can see, yes, absolutely. So we've got the book there. Would you like to just flip it a little bit? Because I know it's like a comic, isn't it? Like a little comic. If you flick it just inside, I just want to share with the audience members. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. You see, this particular book, Saving Our Planet, is like a comic, and it's for children who can really understand about very complex subjects like fossil fuels and renewable energies and all sorts of wonderful subjects. But it's done in such a fantastic storytelling way, so the young children can understand. So I'm really glad you've taken on board this fantastic initiative. And with the New Year Day parade as well, you mentioned. Now, the New Year Day parade, that my final question to you is this, Madam Mayor, that we are actually organizing. I'm actually a creative director working with yourself on this particular project. And we have 660 million viewers who will be watching this from around the world on 1st of January 2024. And we decided to use the theme of protecting our planet. What are your thoughts on that, and why did you feel that was an important theme for you to bring on, onto the platform?
Well, as we were talking about Red Bridge being the pioneer and looking at early stage of making sure we're reaching out to our young children, to our future generation. So we want to share that globally, and why not use the New Year's Parade as a platform? Obviously, this will be viewed by not just UK, but the whole globally, to send the message out that this is what we are doing, and join us and make this planet a better place to live for all of us. So yeah. This is the main reason and theme that we wanted to publicize across, that what good work all of us are doing. This is not just a one-person show. It's a community work. It's something that we're doing it across, and we want to raise the awareness, and we want to work with other partners and get them on board as well. So, and who knows, many other boroughs will take on the initiative and also spread the good work will, and we can take it globally.
I'm really looking forward to that, actually. I'm looking forward from the local to the national to the international, and of course having you as part of our partner, and of course coming on board with this initiative. Also, really being so passionate about it to, educate our young children. We are very proud to have a wonderful mayor like yourself, Madam Mayor Jyotsna Islam. Thank you very much for popping out of your engagement, because I know that you're very, very busy with lots and lots of engagements.
Just before you. Yeah, I have a question, if that's okay, just before you run back in. One of the things I've really noticed at this COP is so many school trips. So I've seen so many different countries having school trips to COP, and they were like, instead of going on a skiing trip, we bring our students to COP so that they can really experience and learn firsthand. And I think that would be such a huge opportunity for the UK.
That would be really good. It will be something that we can take it up with our schools when we are going to visit different schools regarding our booklet, and might be something that schools can take on board as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, for coming along and joining us here today. And very nice little comment there as well, Ashley. So,
well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. And
Thank
we
you.
shall be finding out more about, of course, the Mayor of Redbridge with her initiative, because she'll be working on this year and next year with the Rotary Club of London. And we will be working towards really inspiring, educating, and encouraging young children to get involved in environmental activities, which is really good. And if we can't be the leaders, then and we can't be the role models, then how can children follow? So I would say Madam Mayor is a wonderful inspirational role model and leader joining us for this. Thank you. We move on back again to Aisling. So hello again. I'm so sorry to disturb there, but we had to quickly get our wonderful mayor on board there. Tell us, what else have you been learning in COP28, and what do you feel is the key takeaways that we could share with our audiences from the COP28, that our global audiences who are watching, who were not there present at this moment in time, what are the key takeaways they can take away?
I mean, I think the global stock take was obviously absolutely key to this COP. And, COP wasn't really in my awareness until COP21. And that's when they, agreed we need to reduce carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions. And how are we going to do that? We're going to start tracking and measuring. And so obviously the global stock take is how you do that. And so this is the first time, we're hoping we'll see the kind of final reporting on what it actually looks like. But it's a huge, huge change for the world, for every nation to be like, we are now tracking and measuring. And also businesses have been pressured to start tracking and measuring and, report on the carbon emissions, etc. Now we know why. So I think now the private sector is a bit like, oh, this isn't just, governments being annoying, and getting us to do things that isn't going anywhere, a bit of reporting that no one's going to see. No, it's all going towards the global stock take. So I think, we're going to have every business tracking and measuring and reporting. And at least now we have a stake in the ground, because if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So I think that's been huge for this COP. And it's something that hasn't been as discussed as much in the media, because it's been so overshadowed by fossil fuels in our media.
Yeah, this is amazing. I love this. I love this measurement side, because they always say, that when you're working on any project, even a project management, let's say on a smaller level, there will always be the monitoring, there's the evaluation, there's all these different areas, implementation phases that we have to go through. But there is definitely the monitoring as well, and the evaluation side as well that comes in, that what's happening here. So if we don't measure and we don't monitor, then we can't find the culprits either who are not pulling their socks up, as we would say.
Absolutely, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued to see this global stock take. I want to actually see it myself, and it's it should be coming out at the end of this COP. So we'll be able to actually have a look and see what we think.
Right. Yesterday, sorry, a couple of days before, one of our hosts who was there on the ground at COP28, he shared with us these wonderful pods. There were these pollution pods where you go in and you check out what the different air, I would say, qualities like in different countries around the world. Did you get a chance to go into that? And what was that?
You know what? It's so vast. I have not seen that, but I am going to be going back in just shortly. So, this is obviously the negotiations will continue until they're done. But the zones are still open until the end of day today. So I'll go and try and find it. I also haven't found the women's education area. So there's a key part on like education and how diversity, equity and inclusion is key. So I'm going to go and try and find that as well. So if I do, I'll send some videos and send them your way.
Oh, please do. You're exploring. Yeah, go and explore. And the other question I had as well, there were some really fantastic initiatives coming back to, educating children, for example. There was a wonderful lady who had come up with a particular game. Maybe Charles could remind us what the game was called. But actually, the game was all about how to create a better environmental system. But in a fun way. So it's like a little game, but it's like an initiative, which I thought was so clever to help young children get involved and learn along the way, and also think about how to protect our resources and etc. Are there any initiatives that you think were very, very, I would say, inventive, like something very new, something that you felt was very different and you were really, really amazed to see? Is there anything like that you felt?
Do you know what? I spoke to actually someone who's from Dubai just yesterday, and I actually asked them that question, and they said to me that, you don't have to look very far in Dubai now to see how poor the air quality is. So you wake up in the morning, everyone has these kind of, air cleaning machinery, which captures the air because the air is so polluted here in Dubai. And I think that's really sad for people who live here. You know, in the UAE, they can see, you know, obviously they only struck oil in the 1960s. So it's, you know, it's very easy to forget they only struck oil in the 1960s. So they thought they're winning lotto ticket in lots of ways, but it's also causing all these issues and this pollution around. And so, you know, it's hard because they've said, you know, that's the technology they would want. Air quality cleaning is something that's so needed, really, in that people really feel that they need straight away, which obviously is just a example of how we can just see how damaged our planet is and how it's damaging ourselves, you know. So I think that's an innovation that they said that they're looking for and would want. But as we know, you know, it leads back to the fossil fuels conversation, Charles, where one of the good things about this COP, I suppose, you know, in previous COPs as well, it's always been the elephant in the room, fossil fuels. Like, we're always just kind of, you know, are we going to actually discuss this properly about fossil fuels? Here, the elephant is no longer in the room. Like, it's you know, the COP president. So they've definitely, we're not hiding or shying away from the fossil fuel conversation. It is now front and center finally, which is, you know, positive and negative in different ways. But yeah, I think it's hard.
But I also think about this, you know, the fact that, you know, somebody was mentioning this to me. They were saying, look, until we don't find replacements and things, everything from our let's say oil, crude oil, for example, you make plastic out of it, you make lipsticks out of it, you make, you know, like
your clothes out of it, your polyester outfit, you know.
So instead of killing, let's say, animals where you would have fur coats, you would have synthetic fur, etc. So what they're saying is, you know, you try to prevent something else, and now you can't just get rid of the, you know, like crude oil or the fossil fuels, because and also, how do we travel by, let's say, plane at the moment, because you still need the fuel, etc. So we can talk a lot about fossil fuels, you know, but hello, where is the replacements for everything else? One of the things, of course, recycling is a very important part of this, because if you've got plastic here, plastic there, reuse it over and over again, which is really useful to do. And people do not think. What are your thoughts on that as well? And the second part was just the second part of this. You talked about the Dubai air pollution side of things. Some people used to argue that, oh, the universe is so vast. I mean, of course, we wouldn't have the pollution. It would just go off and dissolve in the air somewhere. Whereas it's not the case, right? Because we can actually measure the fact. I also know when I went to Scotland, I used to have eczema on my hands. And Scotland in the UK here was so clean compared to London that when I went to Scotland, all my skin rashes left.
Incredible.
And it left forever. So
Incredible.
You can see the difference about how the health can change just with having clean air around you. What are your thoughts on all of this?
I think you're absolutely right. I think in the fossil fuel debate, as soon as you get into right and wrong, black and white, fossil fuel lobbyists or fossil fuel versus, you know, climate activists, I think you're in this black and white thinking, and I just don't think that works. You know, we all use oil. You know, it's like, well, why don't we just all stop buying it and just move to renewables? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, you could push it back the other way as well. I mean, I definitely, having been here on the ground in the UAE, I felt incredibly safe. You know, I live in London. I don't feel safe walking around late London. I felt incredibly safe here. I feel incredibly welcomed. And I do think for the people here, you know, they won the lotto thinking that struck oil. And now we're being told, you know, you can't make it or sell it at all. And we do need a just transition plan. Like, we need a plan on how we'll move away from fossil fuels. But I think capitalism has a lot to answer for, and it goes back to what is the purpose of any business, whether it's BP, whether it's Zara fashion. What is the purpose of that business? Is it to make as much money as possible at any cost, no matter how it's affecting the women making your clothing in Bangladesh or the planet? Or is it to solve some of the world's issues, you know? And I think we've been doing business really badly for a really long time, and it needs to change. And I think now that we have to start tracking and measuring on it and how we're affecting people and planet as well as making profit, I think the system will hopefully change.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
that's
we've got to put
amazing.
on the table here, Aisling and Honey, we've really got to put on the table the big role of the governments and regulators here. And the fact is that we can all produce pollution which is not charged for. Okay, so a small amount of pollution now is charged for through systems like the European ETS, but most of pollution is not charged for. No one is paying. No one's paying the cost of driving their car or flying by air, or creating the pollution in the air, which you described in Dubai. So a role for the regulators, it's down to them as well. They're in a position to put in place a penalty, a charge for pollution, CO2 and other pollution. They're in a position to put in place a charge for using fossil fuels, carbon pricing. That has been talked about for so many years. Economists love it. It still hasn't happened. And so it seems to me we're left with a situation where really it's about what next? What next? Given the situation we've got, what next and what we can all do. But before we get to that, let's just come on, Aisling, to my final question to you, which is, look, COP29 is now going to be in Baku, Azerbaijan. Now, I guess very few people in the UK have been to Azerbaijan. It's not an obvious holiday destination. It was a destination for the global singing competition. But you've been to loads of COPs now, Aisling. Are you going to Baku?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that I will absolutely be there. I mean, for me, it's a learning exercise always, and it's how I learn. I'm neurodivergent, and I need to learn like through being at things and embracing it and meeting people. It's how I learn. So I'll absolutely be there. I think it's a really interesting point you make, Charles. It's not a holiday destination. You know, we have nearly 2,500 fossil fuel lobbyists here in Dubai. You know, I think they're probably tagging on holiday time as well, a lot of the time. So it will be very interesting to do the comparisons along with, you know, will do people still show up when they really care? I mean, I think it's great that I do think it's a great location. And I think it's you know, different from where we are at the moment. But I'm just intrigued to see what the next few days leave us with, closing this COP28.
Absolutely. And maybe Charles had also mentioned every person who's traveled down to this place have also mostly traveled by plane, of course. Maybe we should encourage every single person. Can you imagine all the people who've attended? Go and plant a few trees based on the amount of hours you've been traveling so that you can offset at least. And that could be the first initiative that we, although we are the environmental, you know, people interested in this particular subject and we wish to make this world a better place, we are doing our action part of it as well. So even if we travel all the way there, in relation to that, we have planted this many trees in our country or wherever, or donated even. They don't need to do it themselves, just donate so that some trees can be planted in return. That could be not like a tax, but it's also, sometimes governments can get a little bit greedy. They tax and then they take that tax and use it for everything else. Whereas if they were taxed, I would say that has to be used back into environment-related causes to make this world a better place.
I'd say absolutely carbon tax for sure. I mean, one of the other things I've learned really working in sustainability is, you know, the governments set the rules of the road, right? They set kind of how the rules of the game, maybe. But I do think businesses can set a standard. And it's one of the, you know, we take businesses through B Corporation. And again, if enough businesses are saying we're working to this standard because we believe it's the right thing to do, then the government kind of have to put it in place. You know, if every business says we're reporting on the triple bottom line because we think it's the right thing to do, then the government's like, oh, well, we have to do it now, you know?
Yeah. And also the voters, you know, because at the end of the day, if we come together collectively and we all voice our opinion together, I'm sure that all the leaders will have to make a change because they're actually representing us. They're representing our voice. So we may need many more community members in society to come together to voice their opinions in this particular area. And in order to do that, we have to educate more community members what the impact is, because some people may be quite ignorant about what's going on out there. They don't really care. They just, I think everything's so busy sometimes. You don't even have time to look at these kinds of subjects. but they are so crucial because we only have one planet, which is my daily mantra. You know, we have one Mother Earth, one planet. We have to protect it. We're not going to get another one. You know, it's there. So that, any last minute messages before we close today's program, dear Aisling?
Yeah, I think
points you've shared with us today.
I definitely feel the one thing I would like to say is that, you know, everyone's invited to COP. So I think students, anyone who wants to go, I think there is so much happening. And I do think, you know, you have to kind of weigh up whether you want to travel. But, you know, instead of going on a holiday, maybe like, you know, the school trips here, do take a school trip to COP and experience and learn. And I do think people think they have to be invited. You don't have to be invited, because to your point, you know, Mother, there's no spokesperson for Mother Earth, but I do think she's inviting everyone to try and get this sorted. So,
oh, this is so brilliant. Thank you so much. You've been an absolute fantastic guest member here. And also all the points that you've mentioned, I think are really, really important. Very, very important things. Thank you. Enjoy your COP28, and do make sure you go and check out the air pollution, that pod, whatever the pod was.
Absolutely. Thanks, Charles. Thanks, honey. Bye.
Thank you so much. So
Bye-bye.
We're coming to the end of our program with such lovely guests and amazing information that they've shared. We're going to be inviting Charles to perhaps give a summary to finish off today. This program, of course, as mentioned always, has been brought to you in conjunction with Saving Our Planet. We are Rotary in London. Our work is to spread the message of how to protect our planet using the environment as the subject, climate change as a focus, and many other areas which are connected. Just to let you know that Rotary has been very involved in the world of environment, especially recently. $18.4 million has been donated and raised in the last 5 years. It's been donated from the Rotary Foundation towards working on environment-related goals. So we wish that could be maybe doubled, tripled, quadrupled as well next year, and have many more people perhaps donating, because those funds are being used for very, very good causes to protect our planet. One other thing I'd like to also share with you is the UN Sustainable Development Goals, when we talk about the SDGs. Really, this is really amazing, because when we work on the environment projects that we have currently been working on, we have all of these various areas that are being supported. For example, when you work on environmental projects, we're actually helping people with poverty, let's say poverty issues. We're helping people with the goal 2, which is zero hunger, because we're trying to give jobs to the indigenous communities to plant the trees in their local areas. So we're actually helping their economy by supporting planting trees. We also have goal 6, which is clean water and sanitation. Goal 7, affordable and clean energy. We have sustainable cities and communities, sustainable consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, partnerships for the goals. These are all these goals that are there, which the UN has definitely shared. And there are so many goals that are connected to the environment, so that even if you get involved in the environment projects and programs that Rotary has been working on, and the initiatives, then you will know that you're working on not just the environment project, but in a very big global, I would say, program. Finally, to finish off with, I just wanted to say, before I ask Charles to say a goodbye, is I'd like to share actually our details, because if anybody's interested to find out more about what we do and how we get involved in the environment projects, if you're interested to get in touch, maybe you wanted to just follow us on the social media, then here is our wonderful details for you that I'm putting up on the actual screen for you, so that you can. There you go. So if anybody's interested, have no idea why that has come back again. If anybody's interested, you can get in touch with us here. You can see our Facebook is rotarylondon.environment. If you want to check out our website, it's rotaryinlondon.org. And of course, if you wanted to perhaps, contact us, you can contact us here. There's some emails here where you can contact us on info@honeykalariaofficial.com or environment@rotaryinlondon.org. This is really, really important, because if you are interested in perhaps contacting us, here are the contact details. And so there is no excuse. Let's take some action together. So coming back, let me invite my one and only co-host, who's been an absolute pleasure to work with, Charles Appleby. Hello, Charles. So we're coming to the end of our final day of our program for the COP28 live updates and interviews. What are your thoughts, and what can you summarize for our end of today?
Thank you, Honey. Firstly, I'd like to say a big thank you to Aisling Connaughton for joining us today. I thought she gave us some excellent insights. So rather than give a whole summary today, because we've had a shorter discussion, let me just say what I think is so important going forward. So we're facing up to a situation where there's going to be no agreement to phase down or phase out fossil fuels, which has been the big ask of many countries. So the UK, the US, Europe, and particularly the countries at risk of going underwater have made this very big ask. So despite everyone signing up to 1.5 in the original Paris Agreement, we're facing this situation where there isn't agreement. So in the absence of progress by world leaders and the fossil fuel countries, I think what we have to say to everybody is really to look inside yourself as to what you want. Now, Honey and myself and all our visitors, everyone is here because we are volunteers, because we're passionate about making a difference and about saving the world, saving humanity from a climate catastrophe. In the absence of this real action by leaders and the oil countries, I think we have to look at what we can do ourselves, and it really is very simple. First of all, think about your own use of coal, gas, and oil. Think about that. What can you cut? And if you cut, particularly electricity, if you cut electricity, you're going to save a lot of money as well. Secondly, if you can't cut it, what emissions can you remove? We talked a lot today about planting trees. Planting trees, it's so cost effective, it's so easy. You get from ourselves through Rotary, you get 6 trees for £1. And if you're flying by air, look at planting 32 trees for every hour of flight. That's for everyone in your party, and for on the way there and the way back. Okay, but most important, we had a wonderful speaker, the lady from the Met Office, if you remember, Annie, who said that basically the government and others are not communicating with people at their level. Well, who best knows you? And it's your friends. So if you know somebody, then you know them well. Then it's up to you, it's up to us all to communicate with people around us that we know, to make this message. Ask the question, what do you think about all this? What do you think about COP28? What should we be doing? What are you doing? And tell people what you're doing. And what I'm doing, I've cut so much electricity, cut so much gas, I've planted so many trees. We can all do this. We can all do our bit. If you have more money, then you can do more. If you have less money, then you can maybe spend more time talking and less time spending. Honey, it's been a wonderful experience over these all of these sessions. Thank you so much for being a great co-host. Over to you to close off the final one of our 12 broadcasts. Over to you, Honey.
Thank you so much. Thank you, dear Charles. I always love that ending as well. Just wanted to say I'm Honey Kalaria. I'm a district chair for the Rotary Environment Committee. The reason we're here, as Charles mentioned, we're volunteers because we're very passionate about the world and especially about protecting our planet. So we're here not just to share these messages and bring interviews to you, but to actually hopefully encourage some active participation from your side. Maybe some action that you would be able to take. It could be as simple as sharing these links with your social media platforms, right through to ensuring what Charles had mentioned, becoming a bit more aware of the kind of things you buy, maybe switch off lights in your room, and perhaps use less water when you're having a shower. There could be so many little things that you could do to change and create little powerful changes if we do it all together. And the final bit that I just wanted to say is, today, I would like to encourage all the leaders who are listening, who may get a chance to listen to this particular interview or this particular program, to please think about taking action that will be for the good of all. Because the thing is, sometimes we take decisions which are good for this particular group and not this particular group. Try to find solutions, if we can, that can support the majority of the, I would say, humanity, so that we can really move forward in a positive way with positive energy, and everyone comes on board because they believe in it, because you have actually brought them into the idea, you have sold the idea to them, they are more than happy to be part of this. So by encouraging rather than creating, I would say, fines, I would say try to encourage change so that everybody starts implementing those changes themselves. So with that, I just wanted to say, with Honey Colaria, from the Rotary London district, I just wanted to say a very big goodbye, a very, very warm thank you. And thank you from, of course, Charles as well. Both of us have been really enjoying this particular sessions and being part of this. Charles, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you as my co-host. And I wanted to say thank you to Saving Our Planet from Rotary in London to come on board and work with us in partnership to bring this interviews and live updates to the world. So thank you for that. So with that, a goodbye and a thank you. And Charles, let's do our lovely goodbye together, which we love doing, right?
Goodbye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Honey. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.